So hi, I'm Beverly Simmons. I'm from Orlando, Florida, a little small town called Apopka, right outside Orlando, Florida. I got saved when I was 15 and I backslid. And then over the years, I just hung out in the streets. I stayed in church, but I didn't really commit myself to Christ. I met someone who was a drug dealer, and I sold drugs. I eventually used drugs. I eventually was addicted to crack cocaine. In 2004, I went to prison, and I was sentenced to 4 years. Could have been 45, so I'm blessed that God showed mercy and grace. I gave my life to Christ again, recommitted and dedicated my life to Christ again in prison. And then I moved to Atlanta when I got out in 2008. And my daughter has a ministry, and so I was a part of her ministry, a couple other ministries here. Eventually came to know Pastor Shelley and his wife and mother, and started to come over here to visit. And just became really close friends with Prophetess Newsom and Pastor Shelley and Kamika. And I love them so much that I just followed the ministry. So I came over here and joined recently. And that was after I had a fire in my car in Alabama back in November. So on the way back from Alabama in the car, just talking and crying out to God, I felt that God was leading me to get closer to him. I felt him saying, you just need to get close to me. And so I called Tammy Smith, and I told Tammy I need to get away up to just some me time. And she booked me a trip, and Prophetess Newsom went with me. During that trip, she helped me develop a prayer routine. And so I started to commit more, surrender more, and be real about my walk with God. Because before I felt like I was just at church, not really giving my all to God, not just a ministry. Because, we can all go to church, but to just be in church and not do what you're supposed to be doing for your life, for God, for Christ, then it's in vain. So I wanted to have an assurance of my salvation. And so that's why I joined. That's why I'm rededicating and recommitting, because I turned 65 this past Sunday. And I wanted to make sure that moving forward, that I maintain not just my sobriety, not just my physical life and health and all of that, but mostly my spiritual walk with God. I found out in my life in 65 years that I stopped loving myself, and that's what I believe hindered me a lot in my walk with God. You kind of lose yourself to your husbands, your boyfriends, your children, your employers, and everybody. And you kind of give yourself away to all of that. And I would encourage not just women, but everybody to give yourself away to God first, and let God be the primary source for everything. Because that's what I'm seeking and searching now. I'm searching and chasing after God. I don't care if there's a man in my life anymore. I don't care if whatever God has for me, that's what I want most now. Forget the houses, cars, and land and all the other stuff. I've lived all that. I've had a good life. Now in my life, I want my life hid in Christ. And I want to live in his refuge and know that I could just sleep in peace, knowing that if he takes me in my sleep, that he takes me with him.